From having a pre-fight dance routine to having a signature move made just to insult the opponent, there's a lot that makes these fighters the perfect candidates for the title of cult heroes. Starting off with the cult boss, Diaz. It's not that easy to decipher what goes on behind the status of Diaz as a cult hero. What needs to be known is that there lies a long list of things that have gotten him where he is. Sure, there's the trash talk and the multiple controversies involving missed news conferences and marijuana use. But that's not it. Actually, that's not even the start of it. In reality, Diaz's appeal lies in his constant irritability toward everything and everyone around him. Fighting and people are all sources of annoyance for him. His only true loves are mountain biking and weed. But of course, that's not even the most interesting part about him, because his signature move is based on insulting his opponents. The infamous Stockton Slap is named after the city that the Diaz brothers hail from. Their love for their city aside, the move is literally meant to affect their opponents mentally. And honestly, it's not even that great of a move strategically. It's just an open palm strike to the face. This is followed by Diaz shouting Stockton or 209. Which is the area code for the city. Of course, that's not going to be as powerful as a punch or some different kind of strike, but it still has a psychological impact. What slap doesn't? And that too on a global stage with millions watching. And that humiliation is exactly what Diaz hopes to achieve with this move. Because at the end of the day, we've seen that there's more than one way to win a fight. It doesn't always have to be about physical strength. While the Diaz brothers are great at that already, they love to play on another ground. Mental toughness gives them just an extra playground where they also have an edge. And that's not all. Nick has always loved to treat the UFC like he owns it. Many have noticed how many of the events that involve him turn into street fights. But it's all intentional. That's how he likes to play it. And that's pretty obvious with how he makes it all work for him. The emotions involved with the raw, unhinged atmosphere somehow make sense when Nick's in the room. You may not find it interesting, but in a world where everything's scripted and predictable, Nick provides a more refreshing and honest play. From his raw attraction to his brutal honesty in interviews, it's all weirdly a breath of fresh air. And that's exactly why so many connect with him and put him on a pedestal. Oh, and speaking of putting people on a pedestal, Mark Hunt's another big cult hero in the UFC space. In fact, he's one of the biggest, if not the biggest. The New Zealand-born fighter has captured the hearts and imagination of fight fans across the globe in the past, and still continues to do so. All that owed to his unique fighting style, clipped interviews, and larger-than-life personality. Hunt's journey to the top of the UFC has been a roller coaster ride of highs and lows. Initially, he was seen as a journeyman fighter who was brought in to lose to more promising prospects. However, Hunt proved everyone wrong by going on a stunning winning streak that included some of the most memorable knockouts in UFC history. That's also one of the biggest factors behind him being able to garner such a huge following. But it's not just his fighting skills that have endeared him to fans. Hunt's blunt and irreverent personality have made him a fan favorite. He's a man who speaks his mind, regardless of the consequences, and is not afraid to take on anyone who gets in his way. Guess Nick Diaz is acting as the torchbearer of this act. And still, that's not all. Despite being a former K1 World Grand Prix champion, he has a slow, plodding style that belies his incredible knockout power. When Hunt used to connect with his punches, it was like a thunderbolt hit his opponent, and fans couldn't get enough of it. His cult hero status is further enhanced by the fact that he was always an underdog. Despite his success, he was never considered a top-tier fighter and has always been overlooked by the media and UFC management. But how about an even older blast from the past? Cause Don Fry is another iconic figure in the world of mixed martial arts and a true cult hero of the UFC. He was one of the pioneers of the sport and competed during the early years of the UFC in the 90s. Fry was known for his rugged and aggressive fighting style, which earned him the nickname The Predator. He had a legendary brawl with Japanese legend Yoshihiro Takayama in 2002. It's widely regarded as one of the greatest fights in MMA history, and rightly so. Aside from his fighting skills, Fry was also a charismatic and entertaining personality outside of the cage. He was a skilled trash talker, something that's become a part of almost every other fighter's personality these days. But guess the inspiration lies way back in the past. Surprisingly, this wasn't all he possessed aside from his fighting skills. He had a dry, sarcastic sense of humor that fans loved. Fry also dabbled in acting, appearing in several movies and TV shows, further cementing his status as a cult icon. Despite retiring from professional fighting in 2011, he remains a beloved figure in the MMA community. His contributions to the sport and larger-than-life personality have made him an enduring cult hero of the UFC. But how about someone from recent times? Like Yoel Romero, who used to be an Olympic wrestler before joining as an MMA fighter. The Cuban fighter has gained a cult following for several reasons and deserves every right to be on this list. His incredible athleticism, explosiveness, and knockout power all helped to get him there. Truly a force to be reckoned with in the middleweight division. And of course, in addition to his intensity in the octagon, Romero also captured the attention of fans because of his highly chiseled physique, which is weird to mention here. But really, he's been extremely well kept, and you just can't ignore that part of his presence. But he's also really fun. Those who know him know that he likes to shake it in a famous pre-fight dance routine, something that's been dubbed the Yoel Romero Shuffle. It's interesting to see something lighthearted in a sport that's otherwise way too intense and full of violent action. But what's even more interesting about Romero is the fact that he's over 40 now. He's actually 45 to be exact. And yet, he keeps on performing. His record reflects how great of a fighter he is, having defeated some of the top fighters in the sport. He has challenged for the middleweight title multiple times and has come close to winning it on more than one occasion. Unfortunately, he was unable to go all the way through. But beyond his fighting skills, Romero's life story is also a factor in his popularity. He defected from Cuba and spent time living as a homeless person in Miami before pursuing his career in MMA. His perseverance and determination have earned him respect and admiration from fans and fighters alike. All of these factors have contributed to Romero's status as a cult hero in the UFC. Whether he's dancing before a fight or delivering a devastating knockout blow, fans can't help but be captivated by his unique blend of athleticism, personality, and heart. And there you have it. Those are some of the biggest cult heroes in MMA.